is the morgue of this asylum. So many patients came through this place, and it's just crazy to imagine how many did not come out. Alright, hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today Sonny and I are inside of what was once the world's largest asylum. Very wild to be in here. This place is very historical, and I'm just excited to take you guys around. This is a truly one-of-a-kind type of place, and it is so worthy of being documented. So with that being said, let's head on around here and see what we can find. Alright guys, right now we are starting off in some of the patient wards for any people who are staying here at this hospital, or this asylum. And we're gonna make our way down and show you some of these rooms. Here is one of the patient rooms for someone who would be staying here. Very typical look of some of these rooms includes this itty-bitty window for employees to be able to look in and check on the patients while in their rooms. It kind of has more of like a higher security type of feel when I see these types of specific wards in asylums. There's just so much paint peeling. You guys are going to notice so much of it throughout the time that we're exploring here. I wanted to give you guys a better look inside of the room so you can see it's like this light blue peeling paint. I talked about a little bit on my TikTok that there is like this color psychology that goes into, or used to at least, connect with the way that asylums painted the halls and the wards. And blue, which I think most people even agree with today, is a very calming color, and so that could be associated with certain types of patients with certain conditions, and they might want to put a patient that needs to be calmed down in a room like this. So, considering that this place is a little bit older, we've got it started in the early 1800s, which is probably, actually, this is the oldest location as a whole, or as an entity that I've ever been able to explore. But I think, yeah, this was something that really was integrated into their work here, and how they, included treatment for patients all the way down to what rooms patients were put in. This is another patient room, that same quintessential style window cutout that I just mentioned before. And there's also a lot of paint peelers in this room as well. It's hard to tell maybe from the screen, but in person the color kind of looks like a light minty yellow green type shade. Not sure if there's a certain color psychology associated with that. Again, like I said, it kind of applied a lot to places like these. They loved that kind of logic and approach to asylum care and everything like that. But I'm not sure if there's a certain reason why this color could have been beneficial. And again, this color might be a little faded out now. It's been decades actually since this place has been closed. So who knows what kind of a patient would have been put in here, and maybe what conditions they had and why they thought that this room would be beneficial for them. So now we're in the bathroom section for this patient ward. I just want to take a minute to appreciate all these sinks here that are still completely intact and not destroyed, because a lot of people who come into these places unfortunately like to break these and toss them on the ground and stuff. And while looking at this, just thought about how, this building shut down in 1979. So that's a decent while ago, decades, and it's kind of weird to look at these and know that, if you brush them off, try to clean them up, they would look so similar to how the patients here remembered them. So it is kind of cool to, among all the rubble and mess in here, to find little stuff like this that, wasn't really that different from what patients saw when they were here. Now this section that we're in is starting to look a lot more like a lab. So I think maybe we're going to get a shift into that kind of a vibe. It's not really like there's a lot left when you look around in here. It does unfortunately seem pretty bare, and you can see that scrappers have come in and taken the copper pipes. Not too surprising, because this place, like I mentioned before, shut down in 1979, and so they had plenty of time to come and do something like that. But I'm gonna make my way further down the hall and see if there's more medical stuff waiting for us. So right next to that lab is all of these autoclaves. Basically, autoclaves are used to sterilize medical instruments, but it could also be used for things like laboratory equipment, You have to imagine in the laboratory they were handling things like patient samples of all sorts, and they probably should sterilize whatever equipment they were using for that in between samples or whatever they were doing. It actually was also used to sterilize surgical equipment because they did do surgery here. A lot of different types of what would be referred to as psychosurgery, so you think of like lobotomy, other things like that. But yeah, so all the equipment, tools used for those procedures would go right into these autoclaves. You can imagine these look very dated. And so these likely go back all the way to the early 20s when this specific building was built for this campus. And hundreds of doctors cycled in and out of this room, or lab technicians or whoever was in charge of disposing of those instruments and putting them in here and making sure they were sterilized before the next surgery, before the next patient got a lobotomy. And that's really wild to stand in here and know that that was what was going on here. As for these ones, I know they probably could be very easily mistaken for maybe like morgue trays or body trays, but I will actually come up and give you guys a look inside. And you can see that they're much smaller. That would not be functional as a body tray. But yeah, they would put those surgical instruments or whatever need to be sterilized in here, get heated up to a super high temperature, and they would be good for the next patient. And here's a better view of these autoclaves. I opened up the one in the middle so you can get a better view of what it would look like inside, just like those other ones. These are more, cylinder style, but same concept. Medical tools would go right on in here, and super high temperature would just be used to sterilize them, make sure that there is nothing on them that could be potentially harmful to another patient, because now we know that things like disease and other awful things would be spread to patients if you did not properly sanitize medical equipment. It's just super cool to see something historical like this. And even further down in this laboratory section that we found this, what was once probably a blood cooler. I've seen something similar to this in another medical type center of a psychiatric center. And it would have a bunch of different little shelves inside of there. The cooling system was like towards the top. You can see that little fan up there. And this would all be filled with blood bags. And of course, someone thought it was cool to smash the glass, but that would be the, mostly glass door to close, and then you can clearly see through here, your supply stock. You probably would organize it blood type. So, because of course for, surgeries and things like that, it's important to have blood on hand. So that's kind of cool to know that this was used for that. Alright guys, as you can see, we are heading up the stairs to the next floor, but I noticed this sticking out under a bunch of dust and probably asbestos. And it looks like an x-ray that a patient had here. That's just insane. It must have just been hiding under there for so long. You can barely make out anything, but you can tell some of it's darker than others. So it's definitely been, processed, and it is an actual completed x-ray. It's not just the blank sheet. But wow, that is crazy to see. I wish I could get a better kind of image of what it could have been. But who knows, it must have been from a patient from way back. Alright, so further down on this floor I actually found something really cool. It's a narrative summary of a patient case file, like a patient who came in here in 1975. You see the date of admission, December 30th, 1975. He was 60 years old, complaining of chest pain that was going to his left arm, and he stayed until January 14th of 76. And if you want to take a minute to just read a little bit about him, all this stuff in here is everything from his occupation. He was a truck driver, family health history, kind of like physical examination type stuff. It's just fascinating to see something like this left from the 70s, from only a few years before the place closed. And yeah, I know it's silly, but I didn't want to have to blur in a million places, so yes, I took little pieces of sticks that I found on the ground and I put them over anything that compromises this location, because you guys know the deal. We don't name drop around here. But yeah, I do want to take a minute and just soak this in, because this is really cool, and I don't know how much of this is really left around here. I don't think they left a lot of documents, or over time they were taken same room where I found the patient files, I saw this box for something called geocillin. Comes in some tablets. Usually anything that ends in cillin is a antibiotic of some sort, usually, if my knowledge is correct. I just thought it was kind of funny that it said it was produced by Pfizer, because in some ways, you know, we're in one of the oldest, or at least more historic asylums of this world, and you know, we're in this old kind of feeling place, and yet a connection, like something so modern, you know, that we're going through in 2021 is still somehow like popping up, so that's kind of interesting. And saw here, expiration date is December of 1979, which was right around the time that this place closed, so it's been sitting in here ever since. Oh wow, this is also pretty freaking cool. This is a tub for all the patients on this floor. So, pretty cool design. I've seen similar style tubs in other psychiatric centers and asylums. So I'm going to kind of read this and give you guys a little perspective like from this angle, but there's like this little base here on it, and it's like sitting on top of it. I'm not sure if there's anything like hydrotherapy going down in this building. I mean, it was established right before the 30s, this building, so, you know, all those kinds of procedures and hydrotherapy and other things too were all being still done at that point, I believe. I don't think that there's anything in here, though, that would have kept the water extremely warm or extremely cold as much. I don't know. Usually there's like more temperature gauges or, you know, I'm not sure if this is the exact one or if this just happened to be a simple patient bathtub. Who knows if there's also other features of this tub that were removed since the place is closed down, because like I said, it has been so long, and eventually people will steal things, and even after the place closed down itself, sometimes the company or whoever, the state, will want certain things removed, and that will kind of make it a little less clear exactly what these things were for, but still nonetheless, you can look at this, and you know that patients were in here. Psychiatric patients, asylum patients at this location were sitting in this tub and just looking out at the world, and, you know, who knows how long they were staying here, what they were going through, what they were feeling. All their emotions, I think, are still trapped in this building in a way. I don't think that kind of stuff gets out of here. Not really sure what kind of a room this is, but this looks like some really sweet medical equipment, some sort of, who even knows what this did behind, so I can get an idea of what it says. Not really even sure. Just a bunch of little needles of oxygen, nitrogen oxide. Maybe this is like to administer gases to a patient during surgery. I can't say for sure. I gotta duck down because there's a car. And there's this other thing over here, which I'm assuming probably has a similar function. It also says oxygen, nitrous oxide in different levels, maybe for someone if they were like, kind of like taking on the role of like an anesthesiologist to monitor what they're giving the patient, maybe make sure that they're not feeling pain or they're knocked out or they're getting enough oxygen. Maybe canisters would go down here or something and connect into this, and then you have like these little switches to turn on or off the oxygen or whatever else they were administering. Wow, that is really cool to see. So Sonny and I were kind of confused about this room. As you can see up top there, it says Dell room, and there isn't really anything in there. But I thought, okay, like this has to be something different. Like, why would they have that here? So we actually came down the hall and we kind of found the answer. We came our way down here, and this neighboring room right here says up there, you can see nursery. So this must have been for patients who gave birth, had their kids, and then their kids would be put here in the nursery, and they probably had cribs and things like that way back before they maybe tossed everything. I'm sure that they probably tossed a lot of the medical equipment when this place went down, or they transferred it to other parts of the facility. But wow, I kind of didn't expect this to be in here, and I'm not really sure why. I mean, I'm sure maybe some patients were admitted while they were pregnant. I don't believe this hospital, at least this section, admitted patients that weren't part of the asylum, but maybe they did at some point, so that could also be a possibility. So it looks like we figured out where some of those x-rays from before may have come from. There's a few over here. There's actually a bunch of papers all over. Kind of nuts how there's still so many documents left in here. A little concerning at the same time, but just, wow. When a place is closed for so long, you don't really expect something like this, so this is really kind of fascinating, actually. You know, it kind of allows us to get a better picture of the story of this hospital. Keep finding some more random but pretty cool stuff in a few of these rooms. This sets us in orthopedic surgical table, so it looks like it has outlines of a bunch of different types of equipment that could be used in the OR, and I believe that when not in use, they probably would be hung up on something like this and all stored in that way. I am not 100% sure, but that's kind of what it looks like. I've seen one of these before in a different location, just slightly different, but still cool nonetheless. It looks like I found the source of all those x-rays that have been scattered everywhere. It looks like the epicenter of it is here. The water damage is intense here, guys. The smell really is bad too. I thought it was funny because I thought that this wooden board, maybe they placed it here because they weren't going to move out the documents, all these x-rays, which you can see are still stacked back there. I'm not going to go too far in that just because it does reek. But yeah, I think maybe instead of tossing the files appropriately, they just put a wooden board over it, thinking that no one ever will see this. No, like, a wooden board will stop everybody, because everyone knows that that's true, but wow, that is nuts. I didn't expect that that would be the case here, but I guess that's how they rolled back in the 70s. This looks really promising. Actually, we were thinking that there has to be some surgical suites in here somewhere. Whenever you see this type of tile and just the way this is laid out, we just kind of knew that it had to be what we were looking for. So I'm going to take you into this surgical suite that we found, and you know, I'll just leave it to that. Alright guys, so here it is. Here is one of the surgical suites in here. It's one of the most intact ones that actually still has the big light left, which I feel like really gives a better sense of this place. Unfortunately, it is fairly vandalized in here and graffitied, but you know, like I said, it's been abandoned for a while, so it's hard to expect that to not happen, even if it does kind of suck, and you know, it can be a little, I guess, perceived as like disrespectful considering this place's history and everything that's happened, but regardless, it is here, and there are still little things to appreciate, like just seeing this is crazy. Knowing the patients who were under here and like what they were going through, and imagining, like, I think Sonny was rambling and wondering, like, are there lobotomies that were happening in these spaces, or other procedures, psychosurgeries, and things that we know now were very, very cruel for these people. And it's hard to know for sure, but it's just wild to see this, and again, very historical. Alright guys, so Sonny and I are now downstairs in the basement section. We're making our way through these halls to try and find the final thing in here, which is the morgue. So let's go ahead and check it out. Here it is. This is the morgue of this asylum. There's quite a few trays here, as you guys can see. They've definitely seen better days. A lot of decay has gone down in here, a lot of water damage. But wow, it is a weird feeling being in here. Seeing all of these trays, there's actually a few in here that are, as you can see, completely flooded. And so many patients came through this place, and it's just crazy to imagine how many did not come out, and how many were lined up in here, waiting to be buried in a nameless grave. Countless patients who passed away here were never given the proper courtesy of an actual burial place. They were just buried on the campus with a numbered placard, which actually feels very wrong. It feels very dehumanizing, because we know better now. We know that these are people who are just struggling. The stigma of mental health is something that we continue to battle against, and all I can say is I feel for them, I feel for their souls, and I just hope that they can find peace one day, because that's all I could ever hope for this situation, and all the awful things that they endured here. It's just, it kind of breaks your heart the more you read into it. There's another one of the trays. Again, just makes you think of all the people who didn't make it out of this place and just how awful they were treated. They were dehumanized. Mental illness was viewed very, very negatively. It was extremely stigmatized. Even in this world today, it still is. And I think there's a lot that we can learn about places like this. And it's important that we document them and do not forget them, because that is one of the ways that we can honor the people who once laid on this table, who passed away in this environment and didn't get the proper treatment that they deserved. It's doing right by them by telling their story. All right, Sonny, I want to know, what's your opinion of this place?
I think that this place is incredible. It's a piece of American history, and it's so old, and it's just amazing that we got to see this place, because so many places get destroyed and demolished, so just to be able to see this one before anything happens to it is amazing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, like you said, just a piece of American history. One of the oldest places we've ever explored, just period. I mean, Asylum for sure, but also just, like you said yourself, I think you said it best. So much history behind this place, a lot to learn about this place, like I said earlier. And more than anything, it's just nice to sit here and take a minute and just kind of feel for the patients that, you know, were here and what they went through. And that's, I think, all we can do is talk about it, make sure people know about it, and use this as a lesson, because we know that mental health stigma still exists, and these people suffered from it. People today still suffer from it, and we should end that cycle. And more than anything, that is all we can do to honor them.
Exactly. So, it's like this place is 200 years old, but is mental health, you know...
It feels linear in a way. It's almost like we still connect to these people in so many ways, and there's so much we can still learn from them. And so in a way, it's not as distant as we really think. We have some of those same connections, same struggles, and we can learn from this, and that's more than anything what I always strive to let you guys know about, and I think we agree about that more than anything. So
for sure.
With that being said, guys, it is extremely hot in here.
Yes,
I don't know if we ever really mentioned that. It is like 90s, maybe, I don't even know if it's 100. I just know that I've been sweating.
Sweating the whole time.
Horribly so. So we're going to get the heck on out of here. And we hope you enjoyed the video. All right, guys, I'm going to end the video right here. I hope you enjoyed exploring this abandoned asylum with Sonny and I. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And of course, like always, I'll catch ya in the next one.